Good afternoon. My name is Marcus Bivines, and I am here to share my story. Now, I don't have a lot of time. They told me we don't have a lot of time for you, but we do have a lapel mic that is flesh colored. Somebody got something wrong. I don't know. I want to talk to you quickly about why I'm here. I want to talk to you about why you're here, and I want to talk to you about why you are a champion. As I stand before you today, I stand as a graduate of the University of Oklahoma twice. I graduated in 2000 with my degree in sociology and business, and then I also graduated from the University of Oklahoma College of Law in 2007, and I'm a licensed attorney in the state. I stand before you as a father of two beautiful children. I get to live my dream every day and help people. I do consulting as well as practice law. But it didn't always start out like that. My mom was only 14 years old when she had me. 14. We lived with my grandparents for about 4 years until she got married. And then her husband was abusive to her. He used to beat her. He used to beat me. I lived through that. And there's something about the least of these. There's something about those who cannot defend themselves. See, you all are here because you're here to find out and celebrate an organization that does just that champions the cause of those who cannot speak for themselves, who can't fight for themselves, who sometimes can't deal with the life that they were given. And it's not their choice. See, I can tell you story upon story about what it was like to live with my mother, because after that abusive relationship, she turned to drugs. And at the height of my mom's drug addiction, it took about a year and a half from her to transition from recreational marijuana use to full-blown crack addiction. And during that time, there was countless amount of things that were pivotal in my life, and it changed me forever. I remember one time that my shoes had holes in them, and they were just open, and I didn't have any shoes, and my clothes were always kind of holey or dirty. And one day, my mom was like, "We're going to get shoes." And I got excited. So we got to go to Payless. It was going to be a glorious day. I was going to get some shoes, and so she said, "Marcus, pick out some shoes." And so I went to pick out some shoes. I found some. They were kind of some cleat-like white shoes. They had the little nubs on them, kind of like the football shoes when Barry Switzer coached. Y'all know what I'm talking about? So, yeah. So I put one on, and she was like, "How you like it?" I was like, "I like these." She's like, "Well, try another one on." And I put that one on, and she was like, "How do you like them?" And I kind of jumped around. I was, moving a little bit. I was like, "I'm not going to slip in gym class anymore. These are going to be good." And so she was like, "You like those?" I was like, "I like these." She was like, "Those are the ones you want?" I said, "Yes." She's like, "Good." She said, "Okay." So she took my shoes and put them in the box. She was like, "I don't even want you to wear these shoes. These are just too terrible. Just put them in the box." And so she was like, "I'm going to go look at some other shoes. Why don't you go ahead and get in the car?" And I was so excited. I was just like those little kids singing happy. I was happy. I was jumping around. She was like, "Go get in the car." I was like, "No, Mommy, I'll just stay with you. Look at some shoes. What you going to get? Some heels, some pumps, some flats? What are you getting?" And she was like, "No, Marcus, go ahead and go to the car. I'm going to get some things here." And I said, "No, Mom, I've got you." And then her whole countenance changed. "Marcus, I said go get in the car. And when you get there, get under the dash." And my happy feeling left. And I walked out of that store, and then my walk became a ran, and I jumped in the car, and I got it in the dash like she told me. And the feeling in the pit of my stomach started to well up because I knew my mom had just made me steal a pair of shoes. Now, I don't fault her for that. It was, again, a time in her life where she didn't have very much control over anything. But who was going to speak for me? Who was going to let anyone know? In 1985, 1986, the war on drugs had just kicked off, and everybody was saying, just say no to drugs. Y'all remember that campaign? There was like a chicken, right? Y'all remember that? And that was in 4th grade. And this, again, was the height of my mom's addiction. And I remember that at this time, the only food that I was really getting was the free lunch that I got at school. Weekends were kind of, up and down. I still don't know how to, return borrowed hot dogs. But I remember sitting in class, and this particular day, we were going to do the weekly reader. Take one, pass it back. And in this weekly reader was all about drugs. And I want to pause the story here and just remind you all that I'm black. And when you're black and you grow up in the hood, there's a couple of things you need to know. First thing is, what goes on in your house stays in your house. The second thing is, you stay out of grown folks' business. What your mom and dad do, that's not your business. And then there's a universal thing that doesn't matter what color you are, is that when you're a child, the way things are for you is the way it is for the rest of the world, right? If you celebrate Christmas, you think everybody celebrates Christmas. If you go to church 4 times a week, you think everybody goes to church 4 times a week. If somebody reads to you every night, you believe that every child has that same benefit, right? So we're going to take a pen out of the story. Take one, pass it back. I get a weekly reader, and in it says, drugs are bad. If you see these items, run or tell an adult. And so I get this weekly reader, and I am mortified. I'm terrified. Because for the first time in my life, I knew that what my mom was doing was bad and illegal. And so I'm looking around, and then to add to my mortification was the surprise that no one else was tripping. I was like, do they not know everybody's mama's going to jail? 9 years old, 4th grade. And so I got up the courage that afternoon. Things had kind of settled down, and I had Miss Rhodey. Miss Rhodey was the teacher in 4th grade, and every year when you go to the next grade, you find out who your teacher's going to be. Every kid in 3rd grade is like, please not Miss Rhodey, please not Miss Rhodey. Got Miss Rhodey. Miss Rhodey was the epitome of school marm, right? The big, thick Coke bottle glasses, the bun in the head, wear the strange sweaters with pumpkins and candy canes. You know what I'm talking about, right? Mrs. Rhodey. And so I got up the courage, and I was like, Mrs. Rhodey, I need to talk to you. And she was like, well, what is it, Marcus? I was like, well, I need to talk to you in private. And she was like, well, can it wait till PE and music? And I said, sure. So 2 o'clock came. Everybody filed out for PE and music. And Miss Rhodey was like, come back here, Marcus. And for some reason, whenever the kids left, the lights always went off. And so I remember the lights being off, and I go back to her desk, and she's standing there, and I'm like, Mrs. Rhodey, we had the weekly reader today. And I've seen that stuff before. I think I know my mom is using drugs. I've seen her do it. Now, when you are a neglected child, it's apparent, right? I probably wasn't taking very many baths. I probably wore clothes that were tattered and worn, and certainly was overexcited about lunchtime. And Mrs. Rhodey didn't say anything. She just picked me up and put me on her lap and started rocking and telling me it would be okay. That story, I speak all over the state. I do this a lot, and that story always gets me because I still have not found Mrs. Rhodey to show her me now. But she was my champion that day. And I've had many, many along the way. My son at 5 years old got sick at daycare one day, and I came to pick him up, and he's like, Daddy, I just want to go home. And I was like, well, don't you want some medicine? I brought some medicine. He was like, Daddy, I just want to go home. And he said, Dad, I said, don't you want to stay here? All your friends are here. Your teachers are here. He said, Dad, I just want to go home. And I took him home, and he sat with me, and he laid with me, because as a parent, all you can do when your kid is sick is just hold them and kiss them and tell them it would be okay. And that's all he wanted. And it bothered me that he wanted to go home. See, at the age of 30, I had never uttered the words, I just want to go home. I hadn't had that feeling. I didn't know what it was safe. I'd rather be in school. What you're here to do today is make a difference in some children that you may never, ever meet, but you do not know what they can become. You do not know what God has put in them, because they can become a lawyer. They can become a doctor. They can get up every day and be happy about their life because they get to go live their passion and inspire people. That's what you have the power to do today. So each and every one of you is a champion. Each and every one of you has an opportunity to make